What's up, FA Nation? It's time for another edition of Table That Discussion. I'm your host for today, Jen Piacenti, and I am joined by my illustrious panel, Justin Fensterman, Adam Ronis, Ryan Hallam, and new to our table, James Grande. How are you, James Grande?
James Grande is doing well. Happy to be aboard, and I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Love anyone who refers to themselves in the third person. Totally awesome. You guys, there's so much news going on in sports. I'm super excited. We have so much to talk about. I hope we can get it all in the course of an hour. First off, opening day is tomorrow. Who's excited?
Woo! Definitely.
Woo! Yeah.
The Mets fans won't be excited in a few days, but they're excited right now.
Boom. Yes, very true.
Shots fired. Shots fired early. The Mets, interestingly, did sign Brian Dozier to a minor league deal this morning. That's some news coming out. Some news that also just came out is it looks like the Dodgers are finalizing a 13-year deal for about $380 million with Mookie Betts. It's just news everywhere. Now, are you guys doing drafts? I know Adam and I did a draft last night. How do you feel about your draft, Adam?
I like my team. I think it came out pretty good. I thought there was a lot of spending early on. It was a 15-team auction, and I kind of just sat back and then finally jumped in at 38 on Juan Soto, which I thought was a pretty good buy considering some of the high-priced players that went. And it's kind of what I've done in this league over the last couple of years. I think last year I had like three $30 players. This year, though, one player over 30, and then, several in the $20 range. So there were a couple guys that I lost out on, but overall, I think the team came out pretty good. But, 60-game season, it's a daily format. You have a couple bad starts and you could be buried early in ERA and WHIP. So it's a challenging league. There's some good competitors in there. So just hoping to have fun and hopefully win it. I've had success in this league, but I haven't been able to win it yet.
So, guys, one thing that happened last night was Mike Trout went for, how much was it, Adam?
$42.
$42. That's a pretty good bargain, I think. I don't know what you guys think. I want to go around the room and ask you, let's start with a show of hands, okay? I'm going to say, a position where you would draft Mike. I want you to put your hand up at the point that you would draft Mike Trout. Okay. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. No one's taking Justin's taking Mike Trout at 3, 4. Grande at 4, 5.
What's the difference between 3 and 4, Grande?
We're gonna get to that.
We'll get to it.
Okay, we'll get to it.
5. I feel like Jason Collette here. 6.
I don't think either one of us are going in the first round, so 7. I can skip ahead a few.
7. 8. There are 8 players you would take above Mike Trout. 9.
Listen,
10. 11.
How many people
12.
have
You are
Googled
not taking
when is Mike Trout's baby due?
13. 14.
Yeah,
15.
I'd take like around the 12 to 14 range, probably.
12 to 14. And Hallam, you'd take him after that?
Yeah, back into the second round.
Okay, so how the mighty have fallen. So in light of that, so we have a big difference here. We have Fenty that would take him as early as 3rd, not too worried about him missing the time because, hey, 80% of Mike Trout might be better than any other player. He is Mike Trout. And then we have people that say, hey, but maybe longer than 20% of the time he's gone. So maybe I'm only going to get 20% of Mike Trout. It's a risk-reward situation. So I want to go through to each of you and ask you who your new top 3 are. Mike Trout is gone. Who are you drafting? Number 1, James Grande.
I was a toss-up between Yelich and Acuna, and I'd probably go Yelich 1 and Acuna slightly behind him. And then probably Bellinger 3, and that's where I slotted in Trout 4.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Fensty, what about you?
Yelich, Acuna, and then I'd go Trout.
Hallam?
Acuna, Yelich, Bellinger.
Acuna, Yelich, Bellinger, and Adam?
Yelich, Acuna, Cole.
Ooh. Coming in with the take. Garrett Cole. All right. Okay. So you would take Cole as early as number 3 instead of Mike Trout.
Yes.
All right. All right, I like it, guys. This is why we do this. We have a lot of different opinions here, but one pretty consistent opinion is Mike Trout is no longer the number 1 seed. So for those of you that play fantasy baseball casually, be sure that you keep in mind that COVID is going to change a lot of things. And one of those things is that Mike Trout does have a baby due. It's his first child, and he is likely to miss time. We don't know that he'll even come back if he leaves, and the situation is very fluid. So just beware. That being said, if you can buy Mike Trout for $42, that's probably a deal you want to take, depending on how your auction prices are going. As Adam said, that was a very deep league, 15 teams, very competitive. So whoever got Mike Trout decided it was certainly worth $42. Good luck. Who got him? Do you remember, Adam?
I think it was Scott Gilroy.
All right, Scott Gilroy. So good luck, Gilroy. Hope he plays well for you. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's a little something going on for MLB games. I like to call it seat fleet. So the teams are now selling cardboard cutouts for certain dollar amounts, and they vary. These cardboard cutouts will sit in the stands and kind of act like fans to give the illusion that there are fans there. It's really weird, and I think it's really creepy, but maybe it's also really funny. And basically, that's exactly what it will look like. If you aren't completely creeped out right now, that's what it's going to look like at every Mets game.
He's just holding it forever.
I mean, this thing looks amazing. Actually, the fact that he can do that. I thought we had a Skype freeze. It was so good. So anyway, I'm going to go around the room. You guys, first of all, the Mariners are selling these for only $30 a pop. The Dodgers are selling these for up to $299. So this is a serious moneymaker. They got to pay Mookie Betts $380 million. So I'm going to go around the room and ask each of you, who would you make a cardboard cutout, and what would they be doing? Where would you put them? I'm going to start with you, Ryan Hallam.
I have a few. I'm going to keep a couple fantasy alarm. I'm going to go with Howard Bender in a Patriots jersey first off, as a Jets fan. So I thought he might like that. John and Pemba maybe with a bowl of French fries just dripping in ketchup and cheese, since he is Mr. No Condiment. But my first one I thought of was I would like Chris Farley doing the Chippendale stance like he did with Patrick Swayze on Saturday Night Live that time. That would be the ultimate for me.
That's awesome. And which stadium would you put him in?
Well, Saturday Night Live was in New York, so it's got to be, and I hate the Yankees, so let's go Citi Field.
All right, so he'll be at the Mets game, Chris Farley. That's awesome. Finsty, who would you put as a cutout?
I'm going to make Adam Ronis' dream come true with this cutout. And it's going to be a big cutout, almost like a double cutout, of Adam Ronis sitting there flirting with Ashanti in row number 3 of Citi Field, kind of behind the plate, just expanded around the netting, and that way the camera can quickly pan to it. Goes, oh, look who's flirting up Ashanti. It's that creepy-looking dude.
That's actually pretty close to my cardboard cutout, actually.
Which is?
Me kissing Ashanti.
Should have guessed that one. Are you also on your phone on Tinder?
Cam.
Well, I have my phone on, not when I'm with her. If I'm with someone else, I can go on Tinder. But if I'm with her, I can't let her see that.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking you could get a couple different cutouts. So you could be at a cutout with Ashanti at one stadium, and then we might be able to get you with someone else, on the West Coast.
That is true. There you go.
Right. That's the beauty of this.
Like Ludacris said, area codes, right?
Something like that, right?
Just remember, your choice will be on national television, unless you're local, and then it'll be blacked out because MLB is really smart like that. James Grande, what is your choice for a cutout?
Well, I didn't go with Ashanti, and no, it does not include
Adam.
Stay away. I will, don't worry. I am going to go back to what Hallam said about Fantasy Alarm. I would love to go back in time and get a freeze frame of John and Pemba's face when Nick Foles caught a touchdown at the end of the second quarter in 2018. I would put him right behind home plate at Fenway, just so he can just watch himself every day just be miserable when Foles reels in that touchdown.
John and Pimba, you see what happens when you miss a live stream. Your friends are going to go at you. We've got two people. We got one person putting you with French fries and the other one getting you with shocked face regarding Nick Foles at Fenway. So, okay, those are awesome choices. I love them all. I think I would just put, myself. I'd put my dad. It'd be nice to put my dad behind home plate at Minute Maid, and he'd probably get plunked, and that would be fine because he'd be a cardboard. So it's fine.
Would he be holding a garbage can?
He would not be holding a garbage can.
Would he be holding a picture of you as a child?
Would he
Yes.
Probably. And then I would probably make him put it in the garbage can because that's about what it's worth. All right, guys. So let's talk about some early picks for AL and NL MVP and AL and NL Cy Young. This is so hard to decide. This is really just the lotto, I think. But I want to know what you guys are thinking early. I'm going to start with you, Adam.
All right. Well, I was on the phone with a friend and I said, guess who my AL MVP is? And he got it on the first guess. And I couldn't believe it because it's not someone popular. So I'll give each of you guys a guess as to who you think my AL MVP will be.
Ashanti.
Go ahead. Who?
Ashanti.
She's more valuable than the American
She's
League.
NL.
Sorry.
Does
Matt
anyone
Chapman.
want to guess?
Matt
Who?
Chapman.
Damn, you got it too. What the hell?
Well,
Yep.
that was my pick as well. So I'm just.
Oh, okay, yeah. So AL MVP is Matt Chapman. I think the A's are going to have a really good season. Chapman, I don't think we've seen the best power out of him. We also know he's a great defensive player. So with most of the top players, when you look at the board, are in the National League. So I think the AL MVP is a little bit tougher. You can go in a lot of different directions. But for me, it's Matt Chapman in the AL. In the NL, I'm going to go with a popular pick. It's Kristen Yelich. I mean, this guy has not had an OPS below 935 like in the last 10 months he's played. This guy's unbelievable. And, I think the extended layoff has helped him. I think some people were concerned about the potential knee injury that he suffered at the end of last year. I think Yelich is just going to crush. So Chapman in the AL and Yelich in the NL for me.
I absolutely love Christian Yelich. I think that's a great pick. But do you have any concern about the fact that he hasn't really been hitting in spring?
No, none.
Yeah. So again, guys, overreaction. Don't overreact too much to spring training. Obviously, you want to watch what's going on. I hope you're all reading Greg Jewett's spring training reports, which are so thorough and awesome. He gives you a tidbit from every single team, and it's posted every day. And you only have one more day, really, to figure out what you're doing here before it gets started. So if you have drafts tonight, be sure you read that today. Go back and read a few days worth. Christian Yelich hasn't been hitting in spring. Doesn't matter. Christian Yelich is Christian Yelich. Don't overreact, but there are some really other interesting tidbits in there. Luis Robert has been in fuego. Obviously, the Yankees have too. A few other interesting calls there. Vlad Guerrero moving to first base, et cetera, et cetera. Justin Fensterman, who are your picks?
Very similar to Adam, so I'm going to make a slight pivot and go with Christian Yelich in the NL. In the AL, I'm going to go with Jose Ramirez. The guy was off to a little bit of a slower start last year. Ronis, you and I have talked about that. This guy is capable. Power speed combo is capable of hitting above 300. Maybe with the shorter season, we'll have to see how it goes. Was looking at his odds in Vegas as well, a little bit lower. Still in that top 5-6 area, according to Vegas. So I'll go with Jose Ramirez there.
Yeah, and Jose Ramirez, I think, might also be a candidate for a bounce-back player because last year was so wonky. He's such a talented guy. 60 games, you could get a really fierce season out of Ramirez. Who are your AL and NL Cy Youngs?
Mine will, going back to my list, I'm going to go with Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. Trying to get on your good side there, Jen.
Well, Justin Verlander is looking good in spring, and Max Scherzer is Max Scherzer. So I like those picks. Ryan Hallam, how about you?
I am going to go across the diamond from Adam and James and go with Matt Olson in the American League MVP and Cody Bellinger in the National League. For the Cy Young, I'm going to go to Mike Clevenger for AL and go a little homer, but I think it's still a reasonable pick with Jack Flaherty in the National League.
All right. I like it. James Grande?
Well, I already said I agree with Adam on Chapman, so might as well just agree with him on Yelich. Something to point out about the A's now that 3 or 4 of us have gone with the A's. 17 of 60 games. That's what they have against winning records from last year. So they have a very juicy schedule that's going to bode well for both the Mats there. And I'm going to go Garrett Cole. Shout out to the Yankees for, signing him. And I'm also going to go Jack Flaherty. If we can get a second half, Jack Flaherty for 60 games this year, I mean, it's not going to even be a competition. Sub 1 ERA, 34% K rate. I mean, the guy the guy was nasty last year. So Flaherty and Cole for me for the Cy Youngs.
Yeah, I didn't give my Cy Young picks, but my AL also is Mike Clevenger, who I was really pissed to lose out on last night. I went to 34. It said going twice.
Whoa.
And Alex Fast went to 35, and I just basically, had to drop out. But I got Clevenger ranked third at starting pitcher in my rankings on FantasyAlarm.com. And in the NL, I'm going with Yu Darvish.
Whoa.
Now, talk about someone that wasn't so good in spring training on his last outing. Nervous there?
Well, very good.
What are you going to get? First half Yu Darvish or second half Yu Darvish?
It allowed me to get Darvish last night at $22, and I would have thought days ago he would have gone for more. I know in the NFBC he was going 26, 27, so I will take the discount. He had a bad first inning, gave up the home run to Robert, but we saw what he did in the second half. I don't expect him to replicate that, but I think he could have I don't want to go chalk. I mean, it could be DeGrom. There's a lot of good guys there, but I think Darvish can put it together. I have confidence in him.
You guys have any bust calls?
Oh, yeah, you're not going to like my bust.
Well, I hope you guys like mine. Never mind. Go ahead.
Jose Altuve.
You think he's a bust? Do you think he's being drafted high enough to be a bust?
Yes.
Because I think people are...
Nah, he's been going in the third round of drafts that I've seen.
He's going to bust worse than third round?
Yes.
Why?
I just don't think he's that good. I think we saw a big boost in power last year. He's very dependent on average. So I think I have him ranked, I think, 5th at second base. So I'd take several guys over him.
You don't think he's that good because he depends on average? That means he's making contact. That means he's getting on base. And he's got a lineup behind him, and every single guy in that lineup can hit. It doesn't even matter that they have to wait till 4 or 5 to put a lefty in the lineup. Every single one of those guys can hit no matter what order it is.
Yeah, I think that, last year, obviously, the ball was flying out the park when he had the 31 home runs. He doesn't run as much anymore. He got banged up yesterday and left the game. We don't know the extent of that. He got caught.
He tweaked his knee. He's back already.
Oh, yeah. Well, like everyone. Anthony Rendon is fine. All these guys. Oh, it's an oblique. Yeah. Everyone's going to be ready. Yeah, I mean, a lot of value in the past for Altuve was tied to speed. That's kind of gone now, or it's not as prevalent as it once was. He got caught 5 times last year, only had 6 steals. One thing that I look at, too, if I'm drafting a guy early, I want a lot of RBIs. This guy's never had a 100 RBI season. I know he came close once, but even last year, he didn't get 100 runs. I know he missed time, but I just feel like he's overvalued in fantasy.
Okay, I feel like he's being drafted at about the right spot, so I don't think he's a bust candidate. Adam thinks he's a bust candidate. It's not because I'm a homer. I just don't think he's a bust candidate because I don't think he's going high enough. But, okay, noted. Anybody else?
I mean, the Astros going to hit value if they're getting hit every other at-bat?
Yeah, because then you're going to load up the bases, and that's going to be Altuve's RBIs. Put them on, baby. Load them up. Let's go. All right. Y'all are no fun. Nobody wants to call anybody out. How about Fernando Tatis? He's going pretty high. Not going to bust?
No.
I think he's going too high. I think he could bust.
Did you see what he did? I mean, again, 60 games.
No, he's had a great spring, but...
I mean, we saw what he did last year in 84 games. He had 22 homers and 16 steals. Why can't he do that again in a 60-game slate? And the Padres have 7 games at Coors Field.
They do. Still think he's going to bust. That's my call. Fernando Tatis is my best call, and Jose Altuve is Adam Ronis' best call. And now let's move along and talk about the NBA, because they did a test, and the NBA is 100% COVID-free. That's pretty exciting, guys. I think that's positive for the world of sports. So I want you to help me. I know nothing about NBA. We're getting close to it. Give me a bet to make. Help me.
All right, I'll start then. So one of the bets that I like right now, and Adam, you and I have talked about this a lot, Portland Trailblazers making the playoffs. And on DraftKings Sportsbook, Yes is at plus 400. Now they're 3.5 behind Memphis right now. We're going to have to see with what happens with the rest of the competition out west, especially with the Pelicans and Zion Williamson. It'll be harder for them, even though they've been able to survive without Zion. It'll be harder for them to be able to make a run. And with Portland there, we've seen what they can do. This team went to the Western Conference Finals. And if I'm the Lakers, I'm shaking in my boots right now. Not only that, but they, with their current team, put themselves in this position. Now they get back guys who are banged up, especially Zach Collins, Yusuf Nurkic, both guys who won't have a minutes restriction. Oh, yeah, they have Hassan Whiteside, too, who's coming off the bench. If there is a team that is going to dethrone Memphis, it is going to be this Trailblazers team. I would have locked this in weeks ago if Trevor Ariza hadn't bailed out of playing in the Orlando restart, because he's a great perimeter defender, has been for 10, 15 years. But even still, they have a good chance to knock off Memphis. 3.5 back right now.
Here's the thing, guys. If you have a FanDuel account, you may have noticed FanDuel put $10 in everybody's account yesterday. That's $10 of free play. So you can go play MLB, you can play NBA. I'm just going to go around the room and have you guys give me a recommendation of what I should do with my $10. It can be MLB or NBA. I'm going to go to you next, James Grande.
I mean, I think you should probably just wait for the NBA because, I mean, there's some, like, we're talking daily fantasy, right? I mean, I got the $10 too. I haven't exactly, is it just for DFS or is it also for the sports book?
I think it's just for, I don't know.
I think it's
either one.
DFS. No,
it's just for DFS, right?
Two separate sites.
Two separate sites. I mean, then you play NBA DFS because it's going to be, it's not going to be, I think, as sloppy as the MLB DFS at the beginning, just considering we don't know what pitchers are going to go deep into games, how short their leashes is, extended rosters in the MLB. So I think the NBA DFS is the way to go with that $10.
And if you were going to make a sports wager on the NBA, which wager would you make?
I mean, Fancy stole mine. That's the easiest in the book. If you want like the easiest money of your life, it's to go Orlando Magic minus 10,000 because Brooklyn and Washington are not catching either of those teams because they have basically Fensterman, me, Ronis. This is the starting five for both those teams right now. So, I mean, the easiest bet is to say the Magic are going to make the postseason. Probably if you want to go like championship aspirations, Lakers at 240 on DK's plus 240 is probably your bet. Eric Bledsoe, COVID, the Clippers are without a big man. I mean, everything's shaping up for the Lakers to win the championship. So if you want to go championship route, Lakers 240. And I was on the Clippers all year, but now with their big men currently missing, Patrick Beverley just left that team for a personal matter. So Lakers plus 240, Magic minus 10,000.
Wow. Ryan Hallam, where are you playing your $10?
I mean, I was going to say Trailblazers also, but that was only because Justin and Adam have talked about it on streams before, and I was just trying to act smart listening to what they say because they know more about the NBA than I do. The only other thing I was thinking was the Wizards not making it because I know they're without like half their team. But yeah, Brooklyn's falling apart. I would say listen to all these three other people because they're our best at NBA.
But what if I'm going to play MLB? What should I do with my MLB?
Flush it. I don't know. I mean,
don't play. It's not worth it this weekend.
I mean, of course, everybody's going to be excited tomorrow with games starting. Starting with 2-game slate on a 60-game season seems a little risky, I guess, for lack of a better word. I mean, maybe over the weekend when things get in and we get a couple games under our belt, I might feel a little bit better about it. But, and of course, everybody wants to play tomorrow, but I don't know. I certainly wouldn't be throwing too much on the first day.
Yeah, I went in and I saw, like, I don't like picking the MVP and all this kind of stuff. It's just too hard right now. But I did put in the slate for Friday night. Spent like $3. So, you know, $3 is $3. And it's a free $3. So why not? I'm just going to make it rain. Ronis, help me.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't love anything in the NBA right now just because of all the players leaving. It's making things tough. You know, I've been on the Clippers all year, and with Harrell and Beverly gone, we don't know when they're going to come back. We just saw some news from the Pelicans with Zion Williamson. He's getting tested every single day. He's been negative, and he plans to return. I was on Portland before I saw the schedule, so I kind of think the Pelicans are set up better. at plus 290 to make the playoffs. Memphis, I think, has a tougher schedule. I went through the Pelicans schedule. I think they could go 7-1. And I think the league obviously wants them to get in there. They want to market Zion Williamson. That was a fun team to watch. So I probably would go plus 300 on the Pelicans to be the 8th seed.
All right, some good options, you guys. If you want to play this weekend, if you want to put in a sports bet on the sports book, or if you want to play some DFS, we had some good recommendations here. But Finsty, please.
I got one more that I just want to bring to the table very quickly.
Bring it to the table.
I would normally wait for another stream, but these odds are going to start to change a little bit as we continue to see these rosters come. So let's go with this. What about the Raptors, guys? Plus 700 to win the Eastern Conference. Something tells me that we're not done with this team just yet. I understand with Milwaukee, the challenge they bring. If there's any team that could stop the Greek Freak, it's a team with very skilled, aggressive big men like the Raptors have. I mean, James and Adam, I mean, what do you think if you were placing a bet? I mean, plus 700, Raptors going back to the finals? What do you think? I think that's possible.
I would probably, if there was a team to dethrone Milwaukee, I would probably go with the Celtics over Toronto. Toronto wasn't good against teams of 500-plus records, and that's what we're going to get. They were actually 3 games under 500. So if I thought there was a team to match up with Milwaukee, I think Boston. Plus, it's like, you know, when you're talking about NBA postseason, you're talking about star power. And Jason Tatum has been nothing short of a star over the last couple months. That's a guy who can carry Boston to 7 games against Milwaukee, and I just don't. I think Toronto is very deep, but I mean, we've seen Kyle Lowry disappear in countless amount of playoffs. He was carried by Fred VanVleet and Kawhi last year. So I'd probably go lean Boston for the one team that could dethrone Milwaukee. I don't think it happens, but I prefer, if there were a team, I think Boston has a better chance.
Yeah, I agree. I would put the plus 700 on Boston to win the Eastern Conference, and then what you do is if Boston does face Milwaukee in the conference finals, you hedge and you take Milwaukee and you win. I did that last year in the NBA Finals. I had Golden State to win. Once I saw Toronto in the finals, I put money on Toronto, and I was going to win either way. I would have won more money with Golden State, but I still made a profit with Toronto, so hedging is a good way to cover that. So that's what I would do is plus 700 on Boston. You hope they get to the conference finals against Milwaukee, and then you put some money on Milwaukee.
You guys heard it here. Such great advice. We have wager advice. We have DFS advice. We have seasonal advice. All of those things at Fantasy Alarm. We have an NFL draft guide right now. And with it, you get a free Jim Bowden draft guide for your MLB. So there's no reason not to jump over there and get on that right now. We have Adam's rankings. Every single one of us here contribute with analysis, with videos, with podcasts, all kinds of things. We have it all. And speaking of NFL, have they mishandled this whole COVID thing? We had to get Drew Brees and J.J. Watt out saying, hey, we want to play. And it seems like the NFL had a lot of time to plan for this, and we shouldn't even be going through a few days of this drama. What do you think? Has it been mishandled, or do you think they have a plan that's going to be okay? James, what do you think?
I mean, I think what you said is right. Time was on their side, and they didn't utilize that properly. And I think that's really what it comes down to, right? Now that seemingly they're coming to better terms, I mean, now there's this ITER or infectious disease emergency response plan that all these teams are coming up with. The NFLPA, they agreed to possibly have no preseason games. I think everything's falling into place, but this should have already happened. But, here we are. It hasn't. At least there are positive steps in the last couple of days, and including today, that have occurred. But they did take a little bit long to get going.
Ryan?
I mean, they stopped jersey swaps after the game. I mean, what else do you need them to do? I think it's 2 things come into play here. One is I think they were waiting to see what other sports did and how that played out. And obviously, they're all just kind of coming back now. But I also think that football is the hardest. I mean, look at the offensive defensive line. There's no way to not be slobbering all over each other down there. And every play is people hitting each other. So I think it's going to be really tough, for them to have the game without, God, I was going to say fluid transfer, but that was going to be taken all the wrong way. But just like sweat and spit and everything, like it's a disgusting game. There's blood. I mean, football is the most physical of the sports. So, They've been good. They haven't changed anything. They had the draft. They opened training camps. They had the schedule out the day they're supposed to. So the NFL is just pretty much giving the coronavirus the big F you. We're just going to do everything as planned. I don't think they care. I feel like the NFL is just going to plod ahead with just reckless abandon and just go, because I think that's what they want to do. And I think they're just going to make their money, and whoever falls at the wayside because of this, I don't think they care that much.
Okay, but I mean, is it possible that they could end up with the same kind of black eye that MLB got? Is this going to, I mean, they did have a lot of freaking time. And then, if these guys don't show up to camp, they get fined, whether it's, safe or not.
I think I think when the cards are down, they'll have a plan in place. The NFL seems to the sunshine on their ass all the time. It just things always end up okay for the NFL, and they're definitely not going to be like baseball. I mean, that was just ridiculous. How many weeks did we sit here and they argued and argued and argued and over dollars and cents? None of that's going on in the NFL. It's, everybody's talking out now about safety, and I'm sure they're coming up with the best plan that they can. You see those helmets that are basically just covering your entire face. We'll see, but I mean, they're all going to play. I don't think it's going to end up being looking bad for them as a league.
The most recent plan I saw involved them doing things like buses at 50% capacity and flying with a seat in between them on the plane. These are common sense things. These are not like major things. So I have a feeling there are some players they're going to say, look, that's not enough. What do you think, Fensty?
I think with what they've done overall, I mean, I said this weeks ago when we talked about this, that I wasn't a believer in preseason anyway for the NFL. I thought they shouldn't have had it. I didn't understand why. Yes, get the extra 2 weeks of pad. And I know that when I talked to some of you about that, the big thing was, well, what's the difference? It's 2 weeks. Well, for me, as someone who's a sports fan, big-time fantasy sports player, as we all are, I would rather have the first few weeks of a season and then it gets taken away from us than not have the season at all. So, yes, do I think that they drag their feet? Absolutely. I mean, who doesn't wait till the last second outside of Fantasy Alarm to do certain things? No one. Everyone waits until the very last second to make these type of decisions. But now, daily testing, no preseason, they've finally woken up and hopefully continue to follow suit. And they had the luxury of having a little bit more time to see how everything would play out with the NBA and the MLB. Now we're seeing good things happen with the NBA. MLB, it's been... But still, now that the NFL has seen it, they can put more calls to action and they can make sure it's safe for everybody to get out there so we can at least get a few weeks, guys. Baby steps.
So, Adam, do you think the onus is on MLB to do this well in order for NFL to be able to continue, or do you think they're just completely independent of each other?
No, I think they're different. I mean, I guess the one similarity is they're both not playing in a bubble and they have to travel. So That's going to be the biggest thing with baseball going forward. But I just think the players were smart to put some pressure on the NFL publicly. They knew if they spoke out that it would at least open things up. But I think in the end, they'll figure it out. I mean, again, there's still a possibility the season doesn't start on time, especially with preseason. Essentially, it's not official yet, but it looks like there will be no games. But I can see the season being pushed back.
Yeah, and there is a scenario where it would be only 12 games in the season, or that it would start late. And there's a few different scenarios. But assuming we're playing with the full, season, but no preseason, I want to know, how much does this affect how you're drafting? We've seen Clyde Edwards-Helaire sometimes going in the second round. We've seen Cam Akers going in the third. We've seen some of these wideouts go early too. How much are you downgrading rookies, or are you downgrading them? And does this affect running backs as much as wide receivers now? Adam?
I'm not going to downgrade them as much as others because I think the instant reaction is, can't draft these guys now. Well, so what if the veterans come in and they're not in shape? There's no guarantee that all these rookies are going to get penalized. Now, it's tougher for the teams that haven't seen them, but like Edwards-Helaire, I mean, they drafted him at the end of the first round. I mean, Andy Reid said he's better than Brian Westbrook. So I don't know, man. I still think he's going to have a big role. You might see more of a committee approach early on with some of these rookies, but I'm not worried about the running backs. They can assimilate quickly. They just kind of have to follow the blocks, and that's pretty much it. It's not like these guys play 3 quarters in every preseason game anyway. It's not like they need chemistry in a game. They're still going to have a lot of practice reps in training camp. Receivers, it's a little bit more of a concern because they need to gain a rapport with the quarterback, and the quarterback has to see the routes they run, where they like the ball. So I think the receivers, definitely rookie receivers, take a little bit more of a hit, but none of those guys are being drafted high anyway. So, what's the highest rookie receiver going? 35th, 40th off the board? It's not like you're investing a lot anyway. 8th, 9th round pick with a lot of those rookies, and some of them even later. So from a fantasy perspective, I don't really think it's going to alter my board that much at all. And if people are going to push them down and panic, well, that's a buying opportunity for me.
Yeah, but my question is, we've seen Marlon Mack slipping and slipping and slipping, and we've seen, Damian Williams go really, really late. I mean, these are guys that are pretty good. Marlon Mack rushed for 1,000 yards. Damian Williams is really good, especially down the stretch. So it seems to me that this assumption that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is immediately going to take over, Jonathan Taylor is immediately going to take over, maybe we need to think, hey, assume you're drafting these guys, even if you believe they're the better draft, to only be good maybe the second half of the season. I feel like there's value now in these players like Mack and maybe even Kerryon Johnson. Thoughts, Finsty?
Man, can you bring up Kerryon Johnson, and that's public enemy number one for me from last year. I'll tell you that much. So I'm probably not going that route, but in general, what you're talking about, Jen, I was giving a little bit of consideration to Damian Williams and even Marlon Mack as well. Tell me I could get this guy in the 8th round. No problem. Still to this day, I'll say I'll be fine with both of them. With Kerryon Johnson and Swift, I'm probably staying away from Detroit. That's the situation that scares me the most. When it comes to Jonathan Taylor, I've seen him go down, slipping in the ADPs till the 3rd round. If he goes any lower than that, maybe then I'll give him a look. But for now, I'm not going to do that. As for my guy, Cam Akers, well, I'm still going to be smiling and drafting this guy if I could get after him in the 4th round, even late 3rd, maybe, depending on my roster composition. When it comes to someone we haven't talked about yet, but we've talked about on other streams, Ronald Jones, 1,000-yard rusher, maybe now I give him a little bit more of a look than Vaughn. John and Pemba keeps telling me every single week that Tom Brady doesn't like his rookies, and maybe that gives Ronald Jones a little bit more to his draft stock. But still, I mean, if I can get Ronald Jones, Marlon Mack in that 8th round, that's totally fine. It helps me go the Ronis direction, starting with a running back, going receivers, then looking at the depth as I pick through the bones.
Marlon Mack's not winning you your league, man. You think it's a nice value in the 8th round. He's not winning you your league. Last year, he barely played, even without Jonathan Taylor to mix. He barely played 60% of the snaps most of the time. And then they go and trade up for a running back in the 2nd round who was great in college, broke a lot of tackles behind a great offensive line. You think Marlon Mack's going to win you your league when he's not catching passes and Nyheim Hines is still there? So, yeah, it looks like a good value in the 8th round. He's not winning your league. And we can go back to last year. Oh, Miles Sanders didn't do anything the first half of the season. I drafted that guy in the 6th round. You know what? I made the championship. Why? Miles Sanders emerged. So, these rookie running backs might seem a little overvalued, but by the time the second half comes around, they're going to be difference makers on your team.
But don't you have to have won enough games to get to that point for them to be able to help you? You still have to start the season.
Going to be good. The rest of my team's going to be good. That I'll be in the mix. I'm all about making the playoffs, so I'm not worried about it. I mean, look, I took Marlon Mack in the fishbowl, not because he was a target, because he fell. Am I excited about it? No, not at all. Marlon Mack is not winning you your league title this year.
Yeah, but if he falls, just like you're saying, if he falls, then what's the point? Then why not take him at that point? You just said it yourself.
You're looking for difference makers. If you take these guys who are mediocre, you're not winning your league, man. All right, great. They're good for 5 weeks, whatever. They're not winning you your league.
Then why would you take Marlon Mack in the fishbowl?
The fishbowl is a different scoring format. Do you understand that? You know that.
I do, but did you not take Marlon Mack?
Like in round 10 or 11. Okay. I'm not counting on him. He's not even in my starting lineup. We're talking no one plays in the fishbowl scoring format except us, right? We're talking to people we're trying to help. They don't play in that format. So Marlon Mack's going in the 8th round of 12-team leagues, PPR formats. He's not a difference maker in that format. He's not winning you your league. We can come back to this when the season's complete. And if I'm wrong, you can roast me all you want. Marlon Mack's not going to win you your league.
Unlike Miles Sanders in the 6th round, though, last year, you're not drafting these guys in the 6th round this year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going very early. Jonathan Taylor is going very early. And
Taylor's falling now.
Edwards-Helaire misses a block, and a defender has a free run at the $500 million quarterback. He's going to find his ass on the bench real fast.
Yeah, but
Grande?
I mean, I agree with. I don't think you bump the running backs down. I think the wide receivers get bumped, like a little bit. But I mean, I don't think. I think what Adam said is correct. The running backs are there to follow the blocks, and I don't think I think Hallam. I think in your FSGA draft, Edwards Flair went in the first round, or maybe it was yours, Adam.
No,
Am I
fine.
taking him there? No, I'm not going to take him there. But I mean, third round, they drafted him in the first round for a reason. To Patrick Mahomes was his guy. So something like that, I'm not going to bump them down. I do agree with Marlon Mack in a sense, but I mean we're talking about there's not a lot of running backs in the league with volume. Marlon Mack had volume last year, 250 times he rushed the ball. So I mean maybe not in a PPR format because he doesn't catch the ball, but if we are talking like standard leagues, if there are dinosaurs out there still playing standard formats. Maybe you do take a shot on Marlon Mack because Jonathan Taylor doesn't get adapted to until the second half of the year.
I mean, they're not going to even be in pads till August 19th or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I just think that it may be worth taking a shot later. If you can get Marlon Mack in the 8th round, that seems like a good buy to me. You could use them. You could use them together, but I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. But while we're talking about running backs, I want you to give me your running back who has never had more than 200 carries that you think has the best chance to break out in 2020. I'm going to start with you, Grande.
I actually love Ronald Jones, Fency, even though you brought him up. I think you brought up a good point. I'm not a huge Keyshawn Vaughn fan, but I'm going to go Devin Singletary in Buffalo, and I know Zach Moss was drafted, and he's going to get all the goal line carries and yada, yada, yada. But, I mean, Singletary had almost 200 touches last year, 150 carries. We're talking about a Brian DeBoll offense that runs the ball. I mean, they've been 6th in rushing the last 2 years. Buffalo as a whole has been in the top 10 in attempts 3 years in a row. And I mean, if you do want to go back to our last discussion, if you do feel like there is going to be a learning curve for these rookies without preseason, a time for them to get acclimated to the offense, then maybe Singletary is going to dominate the touches early enough to get him to 200. I mean, we're talking about a guy whose ADP is definitely falling. He's my RB2 in Scott Fishbowl. I think I got him in the 7th round. I love that value for Devin Singletary. In normal drafts in 12-team leagues, we're not going to get him in the 7th round. But I think Singletary could get 200 carries. And don't forget, he's a very good pass catcher, too. He's very electric. So, I mean, we could be talking about a guy who touches the ball close to 225, 230 times. I'm all in on Singletary if he gets 200 carries.
Yeah, I think if he could stay healthy, that's a very real possibility. I like Singletary a lot. Hallam.
As soon as you call me, my voice goes. I'm going to go another guy who's just been injury after injury after injury, but hopefully maybe this is the year he can actually stay in the field and say Darius Geis for the Redskins. He's shown some good things in his limited time. If he can stay on the field, I think he's going to get the majority of the carries there, and he is yet to have 200 carries only because of his injuries, and hopefully he can put together a good season for the Redskins. Sorry, Cowboy fans.
I'm not concerned.
You shouldn't be worried about the Redskins. No, shouldn't be worried about the Redskins.
Completely unconcerned about the Redskins' run game. Fensty, who's your pick?
Someone that you can grab towards the end of the first round, Kenyon Drake. I mean, why did Arizona get him? I mean, once they did get him last year, he had over 120 carries, including 8 touchdowns on the ground. You got to love that there. I know they have Edmonds as well, but I'm not too worried about it. Again, at the end of the first round, when I'm deciding, let's say Jacobs is off the board and I'm deciding between guys like Chubb and even Kenyon Drake and Eckler, Drake's definitely going to be up there. Hasn't had 200 carries yet. Prime for a big year with Arizona.
All right, Adam.
Yeah, I'm going to go Miles Sanders. I think there's a lot of people who are like, well, it's Philadelphia and Doug Peterson, and they never give one running back most of the touches. He's never had a running back like Miles Sanders, and we saw what he did last year in the second half. He can catch the football, and yeah, Boston Scott will be involved a little bit, but I think Miles Sanders has a monster year.
All right, one vote for Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake, Darius Geis, and Devin Singletary. Yeah. Good. A lot of them are late targets, not Kenyon Drake so much and not Miles Sanders, but they could win you your league, as Adam says, if they really go off. What about quarterbacks, guys? How are you feeling about Tua? How are you feeling about Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert? Should we take a chance on these guys or just pass? Anyone?
I mean, I don't think any of them are starting fantasy quarterbacks this year by any stretch. I think Burrow is the closest one.
Yeah.
Really, and I don't think the other two are even close. Tua is not. I wouldn't think is going to start the year.
Right.
Herbert probably won't either, but I expect him to take over pretty quickly for Tyrod Taylor. But I think Burrow's the only one that you can consider rostering. But I don't think he's going to be a top 12 fantasy quarterback.
Would you even? I mean, like, would you even consider him as your QB2?
Well, I can't say it in front of Adam Ronis because he doesn't believe in QB2s. But yeah, I mean, he's
I know.
That's not true.
I'm just joking. In the right situation, yeah. If I take a guy that I'm not 100% sure on as my QB1, I could see him as my backup. He's got some good weapons there, and between the running game and he's got 3 good receivers. I think he's got a shot at a good season.
All 3 of them have pretty good weapons if they get on the field. I mean, San Diego, they still have Keenan Allen, they still have Eckler, so if Herbert can get on the field in like a best ball format, I perfectly fine with Herbert like as your 3, not as a backup though.
Okay.
I have Burrow as my second quarterback in the Scott Fish Bowl league. I was ready to take Big Ben. He was sniped right before, and then I got Burrow after that. Just like we said, Grande, I think he has a lot of weapons, and with that, I mean, I'm not forced just because the league is super flex. I'm not forced to start him right away. But being that my other quarterback is Daniel Jones, and Adam, as you pointed out weeks ago, the start of his schedule is very, very tough, then maybe week 2 I give Joe Burrow a shot if I don't start both quarterbacks.
You're starting both quarterbacks. Come on, man.
You're definitely starting both quarterbacks.
Yeah. Probably.
We'll
both. See.
What, you're going to start Marlon Mack over?
Dude, you took Marlon Mack. I didn't take him.
Dude, I took him as like the 45th running back off the board. So the rest of the league doesn't like him either.
We hit 9th and 10th round, and he's still there by the time late August hits. I'm interested to see if you take him.
Well, I am taking Marlon Mack as my 3rd or 4th running back.
You already know how I roll. I don't invest in running back early. So if he's there, I might take him, but he's not winning me a league title. He's basically kind of a fill-in. I don't expect him to be in my lineup in week 14, 15, and 16 because I think Taylor takes over and just flourishes behind that offensive line. As for the quarterbacks, I would definitely take Burrow as my QB2. I have in some best ball drafts. The one concern, though, I do have is that division. Those defenses are really good. Pittsburgh's one of the best defense in NFL. Ravens are good. The Browns are improved. So that's 6 games he gets. But on the flip side, he's going to be playing from behind and putting up a lot of pass attempts. So you just have to hope he doesn't get penalized too much for interceptions. But he's coming off a ridiculous season at LSU, one of the best we've ever seen in college football history. And he can run a little bit, and he's got the weapons too. So I don't mind Burrow. And the other guys, Tua and Herbert, I mean, they're more super flex leagues as your 3rd quarterback. You can't rely on them because we just don't know when they're going to get on the field. And a lot's going to come down to how they do in training camp as well. And it doesn't help that they haven't had the offseason activities to show what they can do. So it's really only Burrow for me as the rookie quarterback that I'll take as a backup because that's what you want. You know, I know Ryan joked about me not taking QB2s, but that's in a league with 16 roster spots when you're drafting in June or July. And morons who draft Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are taking backups instead of backup running backs that can win jobs. Like
this is what I'm trying to bring up.
Why are you drafting Patrick Mahomes and Ryan Tannehill as backup? Like it makes no sense. Every week, I'll never understand that. To me, those are people that just haven't done their research and just like, oh well, Ryan Tannehill's good. I'm gonna draft him anyway. So I went on that. I've gone on that rant forever. But if I'm in a league with 18 to 20 roster spots, like the high stakes leagues, yeah, I'm going to take a backup quarterback because I got 20 roster spots. And Burrow, to me, is the perfect backup quarterback because we know there's upside with him. If it doesn't work out, there'll be someone that emerges. Again, Ryan Tannehill came off the waiver wire last year and probably helped people win. So there's always a quarterback that either is undrafted. I mean, I think back to the FSGA league, Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't drafted. Go look at his schedule to open up the year.
That's who I drafted, and you guys gave me a hard time about that night.
Who did you draft as your starter?
I can't remember. It was somebody.
Right.
It was a top 5. It was a top 5 guy.
And let me just clear that up.
Dak Prescott, I think.
It was more, Ryan, how when Rick Wolf said after you got your first quarterback, you should start the trend and get your second quarterback. That's when I texted you, do not draft a second quarterback in the 5th, 6th round. And then that was where that started. And then you drafted one.
Yeah, I mean,
guys,
there was one draft where someone drafted like Mahomes and Kyler Murray. Like, that makes no sense. Like, what are you doing in the league where you could start one quarterback? Like, I never understand. And there's no trades in the league either.
maybe
You
that was
can't use
defense.
that crutch.
Just keeping somebody else from taking Kyler. Maybe that's what they were thinking.
No, you don't do that. Worry about your own team, man. That's how people lose.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
I
Adam.
know,
I didn't do
but I'm saying that's a losing strategy because where Murray went 6th, 7th, 8th round, you're passing up on a potential breakout player.
Like Marlon
All
Mack.
right.
Yeah, Marlon Mack.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
All right. Marlon Mack is there. Hey, but you know who's not going to be there, guys? According to his Twitter, it looks like Antonio Brown has retired. He said the risk is more than the reward. Do you think he's talking about football? Do you think he's talking about ordering takeout?
I think he's
What
going to
is
be
your
Kanye
over-under
West's
on-
running mate at this point.
Yeah,
Is the only
I
thing I
mean,
can
like-
think of.
What is the over-under on how long it takes for Antonio Brown to come out of retirement?
2 days.
I think this was a ploy for him to get signed.
I think it might have been too. The whole thing. It's just, are any of you drafting him or are you just canceling him? Is he canceled?
Nah, he's not
drafted him-
canceled.
I
Still
drafted
going to
him-
throw a dart at him late?
Yeah, if he drops, I mean, again, if you're talking 13th, 14th, 15th round, again, in the high stakes leagues, he was starting to move up to the 10th, 11th round of some high stakes leagues there. So that's kind of early. But yeah, I mean, you're talking when you get to the 14th, 15th, 16th round, we all make cases for these players that we like, but we all know like the likelihood of them hitting that is slim. Antonio Brown is a league winner if he lands wherever he wins. He's winning you a league. I mean, he can still play. You can hate him personally. You can hate the attitude. That guy can play. I mean, he went to New England one game and put up numbers, scored a touchdown. So he could still play. Those are rounds where you're taking chances anyway. So yeah, I mean, it still makes sense to draft him. And people who say no, I mean, they act like that 14th round pick is gonna be a savior for their team. You know, there's players I like in that range, but let's be honest, there's a reason why they're going around 14.
I mean, that's where I was going to
I
take
think
Carry on.
people are afraid of some kind of suspension that's going to be imposed on him.
Right.
And they don't think that this is not to grab him to help you out necessarily right now, but you float yourself, 4 or 5 weeks up to 6, 7, 8, however long he's suspended, then you get him back for playoff time. And like you said, Adam, I loved having him for the one game. I had him last year. Help me win
I did
that.
too.
I had 4 shares of that dude last year. Yikes.
It's potential plus shortened schedule, right? If we don't get all 16 games. Now it's suspension plus like 12 games. How many is he actually going to be active for? 1? 2?
Well, it
At that
depends. We have no idea how long a suspension would be. It could be 2. It could be 4. It's the NFL, you know.
Right.
Just
Ain't
you
that
don't
a
know.
true thing?
So,
True.
and the thing I think too, especially if you're in a league with IR spots, it's even more reasonable to draft them because you know the concern is going to be losing players to COVID last minute. If you got those IR spots, you can use it on those guys, pick them up and just stash Antonio Brown on the bench. It also comes down to how many roster spots you have, how many reserves. If you have a short bench, yeah, it probably doesn't pay because you need to get to the playoffs first. But if you have 6, 7 reserves, then yeah, I'm gonna take them.
All right, so no change. Doesn't matter that he virtually retired. We're still taking.
You believe
Darth
he
Vader.
said he's done this like 3 times already.
I know. That's why it's hilarious. I mean, maybe it's not hilarious. Maybe I should stop laughing at him. But at this point, it's just like comedy. But I have a really important question for you guys. I posted a poll on Twitter, got a lot of feedback. It turns out this is a very, very divisive issue. It was split almost exactly 50-50. I understand one answer indicates you're actually a serial killer. That's what someone told me. And the other answer it means you're okay. I don't know, but I need to know, do you guys refrigerate your syrup after opening the bottle? Fensty, do you put your syrup in the refrigerator? Now, I know that you're on a wellness plan and you don't have a lot of syrup except for once a week on your cheat day. But on that day, do you refrigerate your syrup after you open the bottle?
Yeah, I kind of thought that's what you're supposed to do, to be honest with you. I didn't think anything otherwise. So I fall into the
Always
yes
done
camp.
that. Okay. So you're in the yes camp. Hallam.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know that leaving it out was an option. I guess probably my mom told me to do that when I was a kid because she told, you know what, she still tells me what to do all the time. Like she made me a mask to go out to the store the other day, and she's like, "You have to wash that every once in a while." I'm like, "I'm 42 years old. I know how this works. Thanks very much." But yeah, under the watchful eye of Pat Hallam, I'm sure we put our syrup in the fridge, and I honestly didn't know leaving it out was an option.
Wow, James Grande. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty weird that people don't put it in the fridge after opening it, right? It's like hot sauce. Like I put hot sauce, I open hot sauce and then put that in the fridge. Same thing.
Okay, Adam.
IHOP doesn't refrigerate it, so why should I? Right? I mean, they're the international house of pancakes.
They would know.
So I
don't have syrup though. I don't either. If you saw
usually.
my fridge, you would be like, you would cry. Like
I would love to see your fridge, man. I really would.
It was over. It opens
Fascinating.
the fridge is like, what the hell? You've got nothing. So
If you want to have more sleepovers, Adam, you have to learn how to make breakfast. You got to have some syrup in the cabinet. You never know. You never know. It can come in handy. It can come in handy.
He just gives them cab money like Jeter. And a little prize pack.
Now. You can just call it Uber now. It's even more classy. But no, so I never refrigerated syrup growing up either. Like, and I think it's because we had like the cheap kind, so it's full of corn syrup, wasn't real syrup. But the other day, I decided like I never, eat sweet stuff. I decided to make myself French toast. I opened the syrup and I looked at the bottle and it said refrigerate after opening, and it was like, I really had no idea because just like Adam, IHOP doesn't refrigerate syrup. Why should I? Probably because it's not real syrup. But I did the research, guys. It turns out you do not have to refrigerate maple syrup. It can grow mold if you leave it for a long time, but it won't hurt you. You just scrape it off.
what about peanut butter? I saw someone follow up with that.
So I never refrigerated peanut butter either growing up, but now that the natural peanut butter, apparently you are supposed to refrigerate that too. Do you guys refrigerate your peanut butter?
Never heard
Mine
of
is
that
in the
either.
cabinet.
I think people put bread in the refrigerator. I didn't get that either.
What about butter?
Butter, yeah. Butter?
Butter, absolutely.
Oh, butter, yeah.
Butter.
All of you refrigerate?
You have, yeah. Don't you have?
Don't have to. You don't have to. I had a big argument. Well, like I had a roommate once that freaked out. So my boyfriend used to leave out the butter all the time, and I'd be like, you can't just leave out the butter. He's like, it's totally fine. It's meant to be that way. And I looked it up, and actually, it's fine. You can. So we started doing it all the time because it made it a lot easier to spread. Who doesn't want to spread the butter, right? And then I got a roommate later that saw me leaving out the butter, and he absolutely freaked out. This is the same roommate that freaked out that I took more than one shower a day. But I think it's hilarious to blow you guys' minds sometimes about different habits. So you all refrigerate your butter. You don't have to.
Doesn't it melt? I just assumed it melted if you didn't.
Well, you live in Florida, so it probably does melt a little bit. It actually just gets
I know
nice
this is not a left field, but so do you have to refrigerate condoms too?
You should know. That's
I don't.
Expertise.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think many
I have
people.
a feeling that might be a shrinkage issue later, and I think that's probably not.
Probably not working.
Probably not ideal.
That would be the freezer.
Bender puts toilet paper in the freezer, so we should ask him. Maybe.
He does?
Yes,
Why?
he puts toilet paper in the freezer.
Why?
You like to cut his ass?
I
don't understand.
No, it gives his bottom a cooling sensation after a heavy meal.
Yeah, that's what baby wipes are for.
And on that note, I hope we gave you all some great tips for how to bet NBA, which items to place in your freezer and not to place in your refrigerator. Please follow us online at Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook. I hope we all have a job tomorrow. Howard Bender should be back next week. I apologize for this live stream today, and we will catch you next time.